God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore will not we fear, for those, follow then, though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea, and though the waters thereof roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof, Selah. Think about this whole thing. Verse 4, there is a river, the streams whereof shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the habitations of the Most High. God is in the midst of her, and she shall not be moved. God shall help her, and that right early. The idea is at the breaking of the morning, or when the morning arises. The heathen raged, the kingdoms were moved, but he uttered his voice, and the earth melted. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Selah. Think about that. Come, behold the works of the Lord, what desolations hath he made in the earth. He maketh wars to cease unto the end of the earth. He breaketh the bow, he cutteth the spear asunder. He burneth the chariot with fire. Be still, and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Selah. Think about that. So, backdrop for the psalm. Most scholars agree 46, 47, 48 are a trilogy, probably written after 2 Kings 19, maybe by Hezekiah. It's for the sons of Asaph, and it's to be sung by the virgins, evidently soprano. It was something that was to be heard and to sung on high. Sennacherib and the Assyrian army had been destroying all of Syria, all of Israel, all of Judah, town after town, village after village. They skinned people alive and put their skins on the walls. They left piles of heads outside the front door. They raped the women, cut up into pregnant ladies, tortured the children. In some villages, the husbands killed their wives and their kids rather than letting them fall into the hands of the Syria and then let their own blood out. The cruelty, the threat, unimaginable. And of course, as the armies of Sennacherib surround Jerusalem, Rabshakeh, his governor, one of his representatives, comes and stands outside the walls of Jerusalem and said, "Who do you think you are? That you're going to resist us? We have slaughtered every village and every town in Judah," and I forget the number. And he says, "Who do you think you are? Who do you think your God is? Were the gods of any of these other places able to stand against us?" And evidently he writes a letter, hands a mandate. Hezekiah goes into the temple, lays it before God and said, "Here, this is for you." Mocking God. Who is your God? Who does he think he is? And they took it to prayer. And you know, the next morning when they get up, there were 185,000 Assyrian troops dead on the ground. We know it says one angel moved through the camp of the Assyrians at night. We didn't even know his name. It wasn't Michael, it wasn't Gabriel, it was Ralph. One angel went through the camp of the Assyrians. Jesus said I could call 12 legions of angels right now if I wanted to. One angel, a threat unimaginable, gone. If that's the backdrop, then every lesser threat to us, whether it's personal or national or international, global, is come under the covering of this as we sing the song and we learn the song. Martin Luther, of course, loved this song in his day. The whole church had risen up against him. And from this psalm he wrote, a mighty fortress is our God, a bulwark never failing. Our helper he, amid the flood of mortal ills prevailing. On Martin Luther's tombstone it says, our God is a refuge and a strength, a very present help in trouble. The first verse is on his tombstone. So it's that kind of a song. It wasn't sung to be theological or theoretical. It was sung to be very practical. The greatest threat imaginable had camped around them. There was no hope in the natural. There was no answer in the natural. And yet God's people saw the hand of God move. The quill goes to the page, and this song then comes to the nation of Israel. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. God, the Hebrew is God for us, a refuge, a very present help in time of trouble. The word refuge here, we're going to read two other places in the end of verse 7 and 11. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. In both of those places, it's a word that means our high ground, our precipice, our inaccessible place. The first time the word refuge is here, it's different. It means the place we flee to. It means the shelter. It means the covering. God, for us, a refuge. The people who wrote this, that is where we fled. That is where we found covering. That is where we found protection. A very present help. The Hebrew is he wants to be known. The idea of present help in that sense. His very presence. He wants to be known that way. And it's interesting. It tells us that he's the one who is our help. It tells us he's a present help, more present than the threats that are around us. Not just he's a present help, he's a very present help. And he's a very present help in trouble. That's where I want my help. And the only kind of help I like is a very present help when I'm in trouble, because I'm a wimp. Look, this is saying something to us in the day that we're living in. It's a song to be sung in our hearts. Things are going on around us. Pandemonium, panic. It's a good time for you and I to give an answer to every man for the hope that we have. It's not in this world. It's not on this earth. That's not our hope. But when things are camped around us that seem insurmountable, what do we do with this? God is our refuge, our outward protection. He's our strength that's inward. A very present help in time of trouble. Certainly we live in troubled times, Jesus said they would be. He said there would be wars and rumors of wars, famine, pestilence, deadly infectious diseases, and earthquakes in diverse places. See that your heart be not troubled. These are the beginning of sorrows. It's just the beginning. The contractions are going to get, sorrows were birth pains. Any of you who have gone through that, and a lot of you have because Sunday school's full, you get the Braxton Hicks, you get all that, and then finally labor starts. And those contractions get more intense and you get closer together. Nobody's telling you when you're laying on the table screaming, oh, this is a psychological pregnancy. You're screaming at your husband, you breathe, don't tell me to breathe. You get to that place. Sorrows, birth pains, they're going to increase. They're not going to decrease. The trouble around us is going to increase. God desires to turn the hearts of men and women to himself before it's too late. For you and I, God is a refuge, our refuge and strength, very present help in time of trouble. Verse 2 says, therefore, we will not fear. Therefore, it isn't just theological, theoretical. There's reason attached to it. There's something we're to apply and think about. Therefore, because of verse 1, we will not fear. Look, there's nothing wrong with being a good steward, being concerned. You know, everybody's concerned. That's why there's no toilet paper or handy wipes or anything left in any of the stores. There's nothing wrong with being concerned. There's nothing wrong with thinking. Look, that's why you have auto insurance. That's why you have medical insurance. Nothing wrong with preparing and thinking. But you and I as Christians are not to be fearful. Fear and worry are sin. They fly in the face of a loving God who gave his own Son that we would not perish but have everlasting life. We can't be terrified. We can't be crazy. Because God is our refuge. He's a strength, a very present help in time of trouble. Therefore, because of all of that, we will not fear. We're not going to fear. Then he says, though this happens, though that happens, 4 times he gives us those. All right? Look at the those here. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth be removed. That could be troubling. The idea is the land changes hands. That can be in war, can be in lots of different ways. Though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. The things we think are so firm can be carried, can be moved. In fact, in verse 5, we're going to have that word carried. It's moved there. God is in the midst of her. This is what can't be moved. She shall not be moved. Verse 6 again, the nation raged and the kingdoms were moved. So twice we're told in this song about things that can be moved, and we are told once about that which cannot be moved. He says here the nations, the earth can be removed. The mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. Though the waters thereof roar, Jesus said that would be one of the things that would happen in the last phase, the waves and the roaring of the sea. And though the waters thereof roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof. We're told there will be earthquakes in diverse places. Then he comes to this, Selah. You need to think about this, okay? We need to think about all kinds of things because the world's so crazy. You know, the coronavirus, so we need to think about our grandkids. We think about our kids. We think about our homes. We think about washing our hands. We think about, but there's panic. And the song says, look, when the greatest insurmountable thing you can imagine surrounds you, something so bad that husbands and fathers took the lives of their wives and their children rather than submit to it. In the middle of that, whatever surrounds us, God is our refuge. That's where we find shelter and covering. Every other shelter that says it's more secure than God is a lie. Every other shelter, when the earth is being removed, is insufficient. God is our refuge and our strength, very present, there with us in time of trouble. Because of that, we will not fear. Though the world we know it and the natural order around us seems completely to be unraveling, we're not going to be afraid. Selah. Think about that. You need to think about it. Second section, it says this. There is a river, the streams whereof shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacles of the Most High. God is in the midst of her, so she shall not be moved. God shall help her, and that right early. The nations raged, the kingdoms were moved. He uttered his voice, the earth melted. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge, Selah. Think about that. What it says, look, when all of this is going on down here, there's something up there. There's the city of God. In fact, it doesn't say there is a river. The Hebrew sentence just starts, a river. The earth is being moved. The oceans are going crazy. All things are going on. Think about all that insanity. The next words, a river. A river. It's in the city of Jerusalem. Its waters are refreshing and strengthening and renewing. Listen, and gladdening. And gladdening. Is what's flowing into your life right now making you glad? And look, Jerusalem, the other cities in the world, Cairo has the Nile, London has the Thames, the Rhine River is flowing through Germany, Philadelphia's got the Delaware and the Schuylkill. All the major cities in the world had rivers. Jerusalem, there's no river there. It's on the top of a hill. Now we know Hezekiah dug a tunnel. Hezekiah's tunnel. And he covered up the face of the Gihon Spring that's in the Silwan Valley today, on the east side of Jerusalem in the Kidron, and covered it up so you can't see it. Late 1800s, they discovered Joab's tunnel, the shaft, and so forth, and they found Hezekiah's tunnel. He started 2 teams, hammers and chisels. No, they weren't blasting rock. They had no pneumatic tools. And they chiseled their way and met in the middle, and all that water is just a spring, bubbles up, goes down to the pool of Siloam inside the city walls. So there is a picture. It's not a river, but Jerusalem was a picture of something that was walled. It was a fortress, and it had an internal resource that the enemy doesn't see and doesn't understand. That is a picture of the church. It's a picture of our lives. We have a wall. God, He's our refuge. We have within us a source of living water that the enemy doesn't understand, he can't do anything about. It should sustain us. God tells us He Himself is a river. He said, my people have done these 2 evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters. And they have hewn out cisterns for themselves that can hold no water. Jesus would say, any man that thirsts, let him come to me, and out of his inmost being shall flow rivers of living water. We know during the 1,000-year reign of Christ, a river is going to flow from Jerusalem and heal all the waters of the world. We know the holy city, Jerusalem, has a river in it, a river of life that we're looking forward to. So all of the imagery of rivers and flowing and refreshing, listen, and gladdening are important to the believer in every age. So after all of this darkness in the first verses, telling us to trust the Lord, not to fear, He says, a river. A river. A river. The streams whereof shall make glad is what's flowing in your life now, doing that. The city of God, the holy place of the tabernacles of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. The nations are going to move. The earth is going to be moved. When it uses this word moved here, it's the same one. This is what's not going to be moved. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God shall help her, and that of the dawning of the day, with the day arising. Look, Abraham, the friend of God, made his pilgrimage looking for a city whose builder and maker was God. What it's saying here is, look, we can be surrounded with the coronavirus, with wars, with terrorism, with failing economies, all kinds of things, but we ain't staying here. This ain't home. We're passing through. Anybody who would try to hold on to all of this and clean it up with Clorox wipes instead of just moving on to the river and the city, it's got to get settled down a little bit. Got to get settled down a bit. He says here, the river and the resident, He's going to be in the midst of it. It won't be moved. God is in the midst of her. The heathen, the nations rage. We're told in the book of Revelation, they're like the roaring of the sea. It's like a cauldron. The kingdoms were moved, though the city of God is not. He uttered His voice, and the earth melted. He uttered his voice that morning, 185,000 Assyrians were dead. God has not changed. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And it tells us this in verse 7 as we think of that. The Lord of hosts is with us. He's with us. In this lost world that we live in, the Lord of hosts, armies, whatever those hosts are, angels, men, natural forces, it doesn't matter. The Lord of hosts is with us. Is with us. Selah. Think about that. Don't think about Corona. Think about the Lord of hosts. He's with us. Not the hosts of the Lord, however mighty they may be, but the Lord of the hosts is with us. Oh, you don't understand, Pastor Joe. I messed up. Well, that's the second half of the verse is there for you. The God of Jacob is our refuge. The Lord of hosts is with us. With us is Emmanuel in the Hebrew. Emmanuel. Jesus was Emmanuel, God with us. The Lord of hosts is Emmanuel, is with us. The God of Jacob, the conniver, the schemer, the wrestler, the God of Jacob is our refuge, our precipice, our high ground, our place that's impregnable and inaccessible. Isn't that interesting? You go through the Old Testament when it talks about Israel, God is called either the God of Jacob or the God of Israel. Too many times in the Old Testament he's called the God of Jacob because Jacob was such a scoundrel and the nation had to be such a scoundrel. And maybe you're sitting next to a scoundrel. Look over real fast and check it out. Look, the God of Jacob is our refuge. Think about that. The Lord of hosts, of all of those myriads of hosts, whatever, he's with us, the Lord of the hosts. The God of Jacob is our refuge. He beckons us, Jacobs, to flee to him, to come to higher ground, to be inaccessible to all the insanity. Think about that. Selah. Think about that. Can't just be church on Sunday morning. This is the place where your personal faith and my personal faith are tried. It can be through illness. It can be through threats of all different kinds. It can be through betrayal, brokenheartedness, financial loss. But the Lord of hosts is with us, and the God of Jacob, all you Jacobs, speaking to myself, God of Jacob is our refuge. Selah. Think about that. So he goes from the refuge to the river, now to the ruler in these last verses. He says, "Come and behold the works of the Lord, what desolations he hath made in the earth." And the near and the far are certainly of it here. No doubt as they looked over the walls of Jerusalem and saw the Assyrian army slaughtered. By the way, you can go to the Natural History Museum in London, and they have a cylinder of Sennacherib there, and he talks about the fact that they came to Jerusalem and didn't do anything and left. Gives no reason why that was the one city in Israel spared. There's no record of why it happened, but it bears witness to the Scripture's testimony of what happened. And then back in Assyria, his two sons murdered him in the temple of his God. Mightiest ruler in the world. His army gone in a day at the word of the "Come behold the desolations that the Lord hath made in the earth." And there's the near and the far of that. Look, that was in front of their eyes there. It gave birth to the song. But we're seeing it around us. I want to get airlifted. I'm not looking for the undertaker. I'm looking for the upper taker. I want to get out of here. We look at what's going on in the world. We have a hope that the worldly people don't have. But he said, and it's one word in the Hebrew, "come behold." You want to know what eyeballs are really for? You're going to find out. When we behold him, we stand in his presence, then we're going to know what eyeballs were made for in the first place. Come behold the works of the Lord. What desolations he hath made in the earth. Doesn't just make desolations. We're also told this in regards to the last days. It says, and it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow into it. And many people shall go and say, come ye, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, the house of the God of Jacob. And he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem, and he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks, and nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Good news, huh? Find out what the UN's got posted out front is something from Isaiah, and they need to get the rest of the verses that surround it so they understand who's going to make peace. Ain't going to be the UN. Come, behold, consider the works of the Lord, what desolations he hath made in the earth. He maketh wars to cease. Not the UN. He maketh wars to cease unto the end of the earth. He breaketh the bow, whatever may fire an unwelcome projectile into your life, however that may come and whatever it may be. He breaketh the bow. And he cutteth the spear asunder. He shatters the spear. And he burneth the chariot in the fire. That was the most advanced weaponry of the day. And he says that will be burned away. Come behold the works of the Lord in the earth. Behold is to look at, to comprehend, to consider. Come behold the works of the Lord in the earth. To see what he's done. He maketh wars to cease to the end of the earth. He breaketh the bow. He shatters the spear. He burns the chariot in the fire. Then God speaks in first person, finally. He says, be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. We ain't doing much of that recently, that being still stuff. By the way, it's hands off, desist. It's let your hands fall to your side. Because we all want to be God's little helpers. But we're all going to face circumstances where we've got nothing to bring to bear. And there's a song we can sing, that God is our refuge and our strength, a very present help in time of trouble. Because of that, we're not going to be afraid. We're going to think about that. Our destiny is a city with a river that refreshes and renews, and it gladdens. It should be gladdening us today. And God is in the midst of her, that city. She shall not be moved, like the nations, like the earth, like everything else. And it says, come behold, consider what the Lord has done in this earth and what he will do. He says he's the one that makes wars to cease unto the end of the earth. He breaketh the bow, he shatters the spear, he burns the chariots with fire. God speaks, be still. Hands off. Get your energies out of this. Be still. And know that I am God. The Lord of hosts, the God of Jacob. He says, and know that I am God. Listen, all the insanity we're seeing on the news, all of the panic. I love you guys. The Lord loves you more. Be still. Somehow in the panic of trying to find a store that has toilet paper left or Clorox wipes left or whatever it is, in the middle of all that, it doesn't say don't use wisdom. Hezekiah built the tunnel for the water or for preservation. But somewhere we come to the point, all of our resources, all of our ingenuity is gone. And God speaks in that place. When we're out of gas, when the tank is empty, when we got nothing else to bring to bear on the subject, on the difficulty, there's another voice. You might be saying, rut-row. Be quiet. Be still. And know that I am God. I believe it's what he's saying to us in the day that we're living in. Be still. And know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. Day's coming. It's going to happen. We're making that temporary journey here. He's coming. In the meantime, still yourselves. We have to do that from time to time. And that's in the context of your own personal faith. You can't make your wife be still. Trust me, you can't make your husband be still. You can never make your kids be still. This is something in your own heart. Between you and the Lord. When the situation's out of control. When all your resources have dried up. His voice has not. And it says, hands off. Be still. Know this, I'm God. There's none other, the scripture says. I'm going to be exalted among the nations. I'm going to be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. Again, it says the same thing, same refrain. The God of Jacob, he's our refuge, the place we flee to. He's the God of Jacob is what makes us inaccessible and puts us in a place of safety. He's the one who does that. Selah. Think about that. Look. So 3 times. Surrounded with trouble, surrounded with difficulty. Surrounded with things that can take our life and we have no answer for it. But God is our refuge and our strength, very present help in trouble. And because of that, we're not going to be afraid. The earth and the universe might move. But we're immovable because of He is, who He is. So, Selah, think about that. It's great to think about today. When you watch the news, think about the fact that God is on the throne. He's our refuge and our strength. And He's a very present help in trouble, and we're not going to be afraid. Secondly, there's a river, man. There's something flowing of life and of comfort and of gladdening human hearts. There's a river, and it flows in a city that we're looking forward to. We can't wait to be there. We're going to stand in that place where there's walls of jewels and streets of gold with a river of life itself flowing through the city. Abraham looked for that place. It's something that's on our horizon. That place is there. And the Lord is in the midst of that, and it shall not be moved. It's immovable. He's in the midst of it. The Lord of hosts, He's with us. Not just His host, the Lord of those. God of Jacob, the scoundrel, He's our hiding place. He's our high ground. Think about that. When all the rest of this seems so rotten, think about the city. Think about the river. Is it making your heart glad? That's what it says. That has a gladdening effect. It should be lifting us up. And it's immovable. The earth may move. That is never going to move because He's in the midst of it. He's with us. Emmanuel, God with us. And the God of Jacob is the one who's with us. He's our refuge. Think about that. Selah. Come and behold the works of the Lord in the earth. Look around. It isn't just things are out of control. Oh no, look what's happening. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Paul, Peter, Revelation, the prophets, they all tell us these are the days that we're in. The end of the age is coming. Our Savior is coming to carry us over the threshold into the honeymoon suite. Jesus is coming. And he said it would be like a thief in the night. It would be unexpected. If he waits much longer, that ain't going to happen. At an hour you think not. There's a preemptiveness to it. Jesus is coming. Look what's happening in the world today. Behold the works of the Lord. Come, behold. He invites the works of the Lord near. Think about those things. Look what's going on. And if wars are going to cease, he's the one who makes it to stop, not the United Nations. They're never going to. If you have faith in them, you got more faith than I do. The Lord is the one. Come and behold what he's doing, how he makes wars to cease. He's able to do that. He breaks the bow in pieces. He shatters the spear. He sets the chariots on fire. He's busy doing that. You? He looks at us and says, be still. Know that I am God. Understand that I am God. Realize that I am God. Embrace the fact in your mind and your heart. I am God. And I'm going to be exalted in the nations, and I'm going to be exalted in the earth. It's coming. Right now, remember, the Lord of hosts, he's with us. The God of Jacob, I rest there, is our refuge. Think about that. Amen? Selah. Think about that. Let's stand. Let's pray together.